Yeah. Hey.
How's it
Hey,
going? How was
y'all.
your day?
It was kind of weird today, if that makes sense. Um, because I'm in the middle
Weird.
of with everything that's going on. Like I love to, believe it or not, I like to be a little bit of proactive. So I've been getting my daughter's is so she starts summer camp June 7th, and it's all the way through or
Okay.
June 8th, and it's all the way through August 7th. And she's going to
Okay.
Alabama for a couple of days with her grandma for a family reunion. And it's time to buy summer clothes. So, in addition to that, like I'm literally planning the summer. I'm planning to make sure she has what she needs for camp,
Okay.
to make sure she has what she needs for the
That's a lot
family
too,
reunion,
because you got to get
and
clothes, extra stuff. Yeah, it's a lot.
I'm trying to plan summer fun things like Columbus has their annual fair festival like the last week leading into August 1st. So
Okay.
I said, okay, I'm trying to make a weekend of it. So I'm trying to plan that. And it takes more work, I think, to make sure stuff goes smoothly than it does to just kind of go by the seat of your pants. I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah.
So,
I did it 'cause I told you I went to my parents. My mom sent us to summer camp every summer. I did like three, and but we stayed all night. But still, it was a lot that you had to get ready and all that stuff. So I know it's a lot. I know it's a lot.
yeah. But, but you know what? I'm
It's
not going to
super dark
complain.
in the room I'm in because I had to put my air conditioning in. I had to put my window unit in here today, dude. It was hot in this office that I'm in.
I don't know why I thought you been had it in there, but okay. I
Like
thought you been had it
it's
up.
the sun sits on this part of my apartment like every day, and it just gets ridiculously hot. And today, I just I couldn't do it, dude. The Menno was pausing today, and I just the hot flashes were the the struggle was
Oh,
real
honey.
today. So the unit got put in. I even like curled my hair and stuff, and I was like, nope, it's on my
The
neck. I'm
struggle
hot.
was struggling.
The struggle was struggling. So
You did what,
we
baby?
got our first request for a show. Um, and can you hear the crinkling noise of my child across from me? Can you hear that?
Hey, how you doing,
Your
Crystal?
four-legged child?
Okay. Anyways, so we had a request for a show, and I put because there's a lot of stuff, so I put it on Facebook just so if you want to look at it, because I'm obviously not, we can't talk about everything in detail. I mean, I could, but I'm not gonna do that. So I figure at least this way, people can follow along, or they can look at it later. So we are doing the live chat on Facebook right now. We're also live on YouTube. If I don't answer everybody live on Facebook, it's just because I also have the script pulled up over here on the screen, and then I am doing the controls over here on the screen, and I'm not that good yet at this.
I'm
So,
gonna look as well.
so huh? Oh, okay, yeah, okay.
I
Can
said
you
I'm gonna
watch the
look.
chat then?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yep.
all right, cool, thank you. Um, so if you guys are watching the show through Facebook and you like watching, if you wouldn't mind going to our YouTube channel, it's linked on there, and just subscribing and liking. Even if you watch through Facebook, we would appreciate it because then it shows who's watching our stuff or whatever. Um, so today we're going to be talking about go for a family member, a spouse, friend, however you choose to apply this to you. However, this particular example, this particular conversation is more of us based on our parents and our age. And I know that there's parents at every age, but for the most part, we're talking about my generation, like the 35 to 40, 45. A lot of us are starting to lose parents that are getting older or family members that were our caregivers. And it's some of us, we're kind of used to being older or parent. But some people, you got to push mute on your laptop or your computer. But some people's family member, they got sick out of nowhere. They didn't know it was going to happen, or they got sick with something that, they didn't have experience with, or they didn't have anybody they could go to say, hey, have you ever gone through this? And they're kind of going through it on their own. And other things that we don't talk about, we talk about, getting through it, getting through the funerals and the celebration of lives, and when everybody goes away, you're kind of stuck by yourself. But what a lot of us don't talk about, and I know this is with my family as well, is when you have to start grieving the people that are here before they're gone. And sometimes we find out during that time that our parent or our caregiver was maybe not what we thought they were. Maybe we're starting to find out some stuff, you know. And sometimes it's good stuff, but unfortunately, I think a lot of times it's not good stuff. It's more negative stuff, and it's like, how do you go out, especially when at our age, our parents are probably in their 70s. It's like, well, yeah, because I'm about to be 50, so yeah, they're in their 70s later than that. It's like, at what point are you saying to yourself, is it really going to matter at this stage if I say something or not? So I'm going to talk a little bit about the fact that two truths can exist, that we could be two different things, or it can be this, versus we can start to see it in a new way to replace that negative memory. And that was one of the things that we first talked about on our very first show, was starting to replace some of our negative memories with a different way to look at it, or a positive memory, so it doesn't always hold such negative notations for us. Um, and Also, you have to realize at this stage that we're not going to get closure. A lot of us, we're going to have to figure out, how do we get closure without getting closure? If we lost a family member due to sibling rivalry, where do we go from there? Or do we go from there? It's just, there's so many different pathways that this could go. So that's basically what we're going to be talking about today, is the unfinished grief, no closure, having to heal without answers, and the anger that, we don't really talk about. Myself, as well as Crystal, have had loss at the parental caregiver level. Um, I I believe that we all have losses at different levels. I'm not saying I'm right or wrong. I'm just saying, for me and what I've experienced. So for me and Crystal, when we talk about certain kinds of grief, we can connect with each other because we've had caregiver loss grief. So when when we were asked to cover this, I don't want to say excited. I wasn't excited to cover something like this. It's not exciting. However, um, I was, I'm glad that I'm able to take some of the experience that I've already had, losing both of my parents, and Crystal's experience, and, to be able to assist someone, because that's cool that you guys actually felt, that something that we said helped.
Right. Yep.
Um, So again, on Facebook, that I did post everything. So the first thing on here, that I put on here is
Real
realizing
quick,
that,
if whoever's watching, if you're watching from Facebook, if you could just say hi in the chat, that'll be great. Just say hi.
oh yeah, for sure. Um,
Okay, go ahead, Shana.
we have two in Facebook. We had three, but we have two in Facebook and one on YouTube. Yay! Um,
Yay!
which I need to open this. Okay. So the one of the things is that you're talking about people and you're grieving people that are still here, and you know the that's really hard to do because how do you grieve someone and they're not gone yet? Especially if your family member hasn't been sick. It's not like you've had time to prepare. Um, Crystal, do you think you've ever had to go through that before, where you had to experience grief like before it happened?
Well, for me, I'm going to say this. I grieved twice, and I'll explain what I mean by I grieved twice. So, right after I had my daughter, like literally, she still had to put my mom in a facility. And I didn't realize it at the time. I was grieving her loss, even though she was still alive, because she's in this facility. She cannot walk with me in life anymore, especially as far as me being a new mother, as far as just the day to day. I can't just pick up the phone and just say, you know, I think I messed up this dish. Could you tell me what's supposed to go in it again? Like
Right.
those little things that do matter. If you can't do that and you're used to doing that to your loved one, that's a grief. And so at the time I
Yes.
didn't realize that I was grieving her. So when I finally got past that
Okay.
part, when I was still going to see her, um, after a while I started to say, okay, Crystal, you know, it's getting time. It's getting time. And I was able to prepare myself for that. And what I mean by prepare myself for that is I was able to have conversations with myself and say, hey, she's declining. She's not getting up from here. You know, just take a minute and think and know that you can move on. You will be okay. Right. Like I think I had to speak strength into myself
Yeah.
to before it happened, because for a split second everything stops. When you get that phone call, everything stops, right? Everything stops when you get that phone call. And I had a little
Yeah.
she ended up being in a facility for like 6 years. So I had time to take care of her, still interact with her and watch her decline and grieve watching her decline. Um, you know, going back and forth to the emergency room visits when something was wrong, thinking, oh my God, this is driving myself crazy. The phone would be that phone call, right? So
Right.
I finally just said, God, listen, I know logically that she's declining, and I know that it's a part of life, but I need you to prepare me emotionally so that I don't lose it. Because
Right.
because in my mind, you know, I get that death is logical, but the separation of relationship is what's hard to swallow. And
Yeah.
that's real. You know what I'm saying? And you don't know
Absolutely.
what to do with that, right? In
Yeah.
your head, it's logical, but your feelings and your emotions are just raging, right? And so I told God, like, you're going to have to prepare me now for when that time comes. Um, and I didn't ask to not be sad. I didn't ask to not cry. I didn't ask to not grieve. My only
Right.
prayer was, God, help me to not lose it. That's all
Right.
I
Right.
wanted. You know what I'm saying? Because
Yeah.
tears are healthy, grieving is healthy. You know, hey, I got to
Hmm.
slow down and take a time out because my heart is hurting, all that is real, and you
Hmm.
should and do it. You know what I'm saying? I
Right.
just
Yeah.
didn't see people. I've seen people just be hysterical, feel like they can't live anymore. I didn't want to go
Right.
that with it. I knew I couldn't control myself if God didn't help me, if that makes sense. Does that make
Right.
sense?
Yeah. No, it does.
Um,
My dad, he had his first massive heart attack when I was just a senior in high school. So it was like we almost got
oh
desensitized
wait.
because I do know that. And over the past, until my dad passed away and my mom, because she was disabled, well, more with my dad though, because we didn't have that many urgent calls with my mom. It was more with my dad. But if the phone rang after 9 o'clock at night, something was wrong. It was what it was. It got to the point where there were neighbors texting us like, "Hey, the ambulance is back at your parents' house."
Oh
And
wow.
there were times in the early stages with my dad when he had some heart issues where they would be like, "Oh, you got to get here. It's that time." So you're like on the way there having a heart attack, not knowing what's gonna happen. And by the time we get there, my dad would be sitting in his bed eating Jello, and it would just be like, I'm gonna choke you out, dude. Um, and it's crazy because for years, I remember thinking that I was desensitized to the situation. No, I was not. Um, However, I will say that something that was interesting to me is that my father's death was expected, my mother's was not. So when my mom passed away first, it did not hit me until my dad passed away 3, 4 years later. And then when we buried them together at that moment is when it all hit me all at once because it was just not, it just wasn't real to me. I was not prepared for my mom. I was prepared for my dad, which is also weird because I was closer with my dad, but we had almost been again
Wow.
desensitized to expect my dad to go first. So when he didn't,
That is correct. That is
I
true.
was just completely numb to it. I wasn't numb to my mom passing, don't get me wrong, but when my dad went and then we buried them both together, they were cremated. That's when it really hit me. And I often wondered if, because sometimes I feel guilty. I want to go see my dad at his grave. I don't particularly want to talk to my mother though. Or I'll want to go see my mom and maybe I don't want to particularly see my dad, but they're both in the same place. So if I go there, I kind of, they're on the opposite sides though, so I'll stand. But it was definitely weird for me. And something else that another part of this that goes into what we were talking about is when you do realize that you were closer with one parent versus the other, or one caregiver or whatnot. And if that happens, what does that mean about your family dynamic, or does it mean anything? I know not everything has a meaning to it. um, but at
You have a
at the
you have
same time,
feelings for who you have a relationship with.
well, I mean, I had a relationship with both of my parents, but I was still closer with my dad. You know what I'm saying? And so it just, however,
I was closer with my dad than my mom.
yeah, I was closer with my dad, but it hit me in a different way with my mom. I don't, it hit me a lot harder than I thought it
Mhm.
was going to. So that was just, it was different. It was a different emotion to have that I wasn't expecting. And I think a lot of people, especially my friend, was kind of going through that. She was closer with her father, and now it's like, what does that mean? Like when you're losing the other person, but you're close with them too, Do you grieve one more than the other? It's a very slippery slope, at least for me and my friend, to figure out, certain things. And I think that starts to talk about too is grieving the parents that you thought that you had, because you know a lot of times you find out stuff that you just didn't want to know about, and some of that stuff can lead to sibling rivalry. Maybe one parent was telling the other kid stuff about them, and what's crazy to me is the fact that when my friend asked me to do this and we were talking a little bit, because I think when we experience something, we don't think that other people experience it too. We're just like, dude, my family must have been just crazy poo. But then you hear somebody else that's going through it, the same thing, and it's like, oh, that wasn't a my family thing. That was a thing that other people go through as well. And when you find out, at least when I did, that a parent was responsible for some rivalry or a disconnect in a relationship over a lie, and you find out about it later in life when your parent is sick or passing away, and they're at that stage to, do you say something? Like, what does it accomplish? And it's really hard because you have to figure out with your sibling, especially if they're the one that told you, hey, this happened, and then you and your sibling have to figure out, um, you know, do you even want to move forward? Is that something that either one of you were even interested in? You know what I'm saying? Sometimes the damage is already done from the parent because, and what's weird to me is that I do know that some parents have a favorite. And I don't think they do it on purpose, but it's real weird to me when a parent expresses favoritism in their kids, because it causes a lot of drama in the other kids. It causes a lot of jealousy in that sibling line that did not need to be there because someone didn't know how to not have a favorite. You know what I'm saying? So I think that, that definitely goes into
Yep.
the. I had to get a little light over here. It was super dark. There we go. So, it's at this point, if you decide that it's not worth saying something, you're going to have to let it go. Um, then you're going to have to choose to forgive as you work towards reconnecting with either yourself or your family member. Me personally, I chose not to do that. I chose not to reconnect after I went through what I went through. But, everybody's different. Some people need to reconnect and some don't. Did you have to do that with your situation at all?
And what was your reason for choosing? And what was your
I can't hear you. Either I'm froze or you're froze, but I can't hear you. Okay, I'm not sure if I'm froze or if Crystal's
right?
froze. So we'll just,
I'm back.
you guys let me go.
Can
Is
you
that you,
can
Crystal?
you can you
Okay.
hear me clear?
um,
It's okay. Can you hear
yeah.
me
So
clearly
what I
now?
had said was,
So what was
yeah,
your reason for choosing not to reconnect to your sibling?
because I didn't want to be connected in the first place, and the only reason why
What
was
was
because my parents were here. So when
okay?
my father died,
And
that
so
was the last.
I'm gonna say,
Why would I stay connected?
I don't necessarily I don't really think that there's a blanket answer to that. And what I mean, because each family dynamic is different. You, if there's a person where, and you're right, it's weird when a parent plays favoritism and set one kid against the other. That is very weird and it's very dysfunctional. However, I feel like once you become adults, you get to make that choice. That do I want a relationship with this person, my sibling, or not? And if you don't, I feel like you get to make that decision. You know what I'm saying? You get determined. But I also feel like that decision should also be based on if the other sibling is willing to work on the relationship. Is that sibling willing to squash whatever the beef is? Is that sibling ready to or willing to let it go and let it die with the parent? You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
If they're not
Yeah,
ready to
yeah.
do any of that or they're not willing to do any of that, there's nothing you can do about it, right? And in that case, it's like, okay, well, if you don't want to make it right as my sibling, if you don't want to work on this, I can't force you. But I will not make myself available to you just for this because we got the same blood. You know what I mean? Respect has to.
Oh yeah, you mean
We still gotta have some respect. Not now.
yeah.
We still gotta have
I'm
some
never
respect here.
I'm never gonna be one of those people that fights to have somebody in my life that doesn't want to be there. You
Yeah,
either want to be
yeah.
there or you
And
don't. I could, I don't care either way.
I feel like this too. Even though the parent may the parent that is no longer here, or the parents that are no longer here, although they may have started rift, I feel like as an individual, we can end with us. We get to determine which way we go here.
Absolutely.
And I
Yeah,
don't
I have.
think we can grieve the fact, man, I wish my parent would not have drove that wedge. I
Yeah,
wish my parent did the loss of a parent, but loss of a sibling. You know what I'm saying? All
absolutely. Absolutely.
because of family. No, put it down. All because of what my family member did. But it's like, okay, I'm gonna say this. Feel it. No emotion is wrong.
Right.
Be in my life, but you got to come with respect. You can be in my life, but you got to come with some
Right.
consideration. And if you don't,
Right.
if they
Well, that's
don't,
I think any situation that we're in, regardless if it's this way or that, that should always be your boundary of
then
how
it's
you
not
let
your
somebody
parent
step
that is
into your life.
causing the point. It is inability or unwillingness to be mature and work it out.
Right. Right. But I mean, I get what you're saying, and I know that everybody's situation is different. You know what I mean? And kind of like what Joni's talking about in chat. And she's saying that she found herself separating mentally and emotionally. I do understand that because when my mom was in the nursing home, I mean, she was just a couple blocks away from me, and I could have went and seen her
Mm,
anytime I wanted, but I didn't know that she was there. Um, passing away. I thought she was there for other things. So when it came time to we're down to our last 3 or 4 days, it was like, damn, did I spend that whole time distancing myself, knowing that I don't feel like I knew she wasn't ever going to come out. But at the same time, it was like every time 30 to 40 to 50 days went by, I was like, why are you still in here? You're only supposed to be in here for recovery. Like, I don't understand. Like, what are the doctors telling you? And I'm not sure about everybody else's parents, but my parents, or my mom at least, was very, very secretive about her health. She didn't want anybody knowing her business. So even when I was going to the nursing home to see her, There was a lot of things I did not know, and they couldn't tell me because she was of sound mind. It wasn't like, there was no reason for them to have concern to tell anyone. Um, and then the day that I found out that things were shutting down and I went to see her and I seen the bigger picture of what was happening and the things that I didn't know about, um, I was glad that I didn't know. You know what I'm saying? So I do understand, separating yourself mentally. I will say this though, Joni, like I get that part of it. Just make sure that you're not doing it to the point where, if and when it's that time, you don't regret not doing it a little bit more or seeing her a little
Can you
bit
hear me?
more. Just make sure that, that's really what you want to do so that you don't have any regrets later. And I know that's an easy thing to say versus doing it, but just speaking from personal experience, I didn't do it. And I definitely wish I would have. Even though there was a lot of things, just like you with how what you're going through, I was going through those things with my mom too. There was a lot of things that I knew I wasn't going to get closure for. And the reality of it, I feel like, is that we have to realize that these conversations are probably never going to happen. And instead of focusing on that, make the new reality of that we can accept partial truths. Like, yeah, this part sucked, but this part was great. So like I always use with for me to just get myself through it. Yeah, there were certain things that happened when I was younger that made me not happy with my mother as a parent, but my mom was an amazing grandmother. So I was able to kind of, and again, I'm not saying everybody has to do that. That's what I did. But that's what kind of even the scales out for me with that, with the conversations that I was never able to have. That's how I evened them out. Um, and I also had to come to grips with there were things that I wanted
I think
apologies for that I knew I wasn't going to get an apology for. There were things that I felt like my mom should have looked me in my face and my dad should have looked me in my face at some point and said, I'm sorry for whatever, for certain things. And I had to come to understand that. And Crystal, you said this a minute ago. Um, you're understanding behavior without excusing it. Like, I'm not saying that the lack of our parents or the lack of certain things is excusable, but at some point, you have to say to yourself, why would my parent think it's okay to do this? Did their parent do it? Did their parent do it? And like Crystal was saying, you get to the point where it's like, as a parent, now you have to show up and say, okay, I don't want my kids to go through what I went through. I certainly don't want my sons feeling like there's a favorite amongst the two of them, because there's absolutely not. And I would hate for one of them to ever feel like I felt that way. Um, so I feel like, I'm breaking the cycle of what my
yep.
mom went through, what her stepmom put her through, because my mom's mom died when she was like 13. So it's like you can, again, it's without the apology, it's not that you're excusing the behavior. You're just trying to understand it more for your mental health and for your level of forgiveness versus theirs. If
I'm
that
gonna
makes
tell
sense.
you, after my mom passed, it was like, because I think every kid goes through that. Although I didn't have any regrets with her, I I still there was a little bit of, I don't want to say resentment, but I'm gonna use that word because I don't know what other word to use. And I just had to like, okay, say, okay, why am I sitting with this? Because there's nothing she can do about it. She can't change it. She can't do anything about it. So why am I
Right.
holding on to it? And again, like, God knows what, and God knows what we don't know. And God knows how to give you an answer without having to, without your parent ever having to say anything, right? And the
Absolutely.
only thing that I got, the level of comfort that I got was, now that I'm a parent, and I'm sure, and I haven't been a parent long, but I'm sure my name is going to come up in my daughter's counseling sessions. I'm sure it is, because we are imperfect people trying to take care of another imperfect person.
Right.
You know what I mean? And
Well,
I don't know all of what her
I had
demons,
to
what
have that
she had,
conversation
and
with
keep
one of my
at
friends who
bay.
was talking about putting her daughter in therapy. And I was like, girl, if your daughter's whole level of trauma is just talking about how you yelled at her when she was a kid, she's going to be okay. If you told her that Santa was real or was fake a couple years early and that's the only thing she's
Well,
going to talk about in counseling, not saying for you, but you feel what I'm saying? Like if that's all she's going to have to say is some
but
minor
here's
shit
the
because we're not human, then she's lucky. You know what I'm saying, compared to what we
but
would
here's
have
the deal.
said.
Don't want her to have to say. I don't want her to have to go at all.
Right, right, me neither. Like you said, I thought maybe you already had it there, that's why you said it.
Well, I don't want her to have to go at all. That's just it. But but here's one thing that you can attest to, right? Or attest to, that I don't get to tell you what hurt and didn't hurt. I don't get to
Yeah.
tell you that didn't hurt you. You know what I'm saying?
Yes,
And now I may not
absolutely.
have meant it that way. And what I did I felt was minor and not a big deal, because I got to cross a bridge that I don't really cross, because I don't really think I did anything wrong, because
Right,
I love you.
right.
So
Well, that's
sometimes
why I
some of
think
that is
it's
just a
like there's
matter of
levels. You know what I'm
interpretation.
saying? Yeah, and I think that's why
There's
it's
levels to
important
it,
when
and
people, it's like you said, you don't, when me and you talk, we don't put each other's level above each other's level of trauma. It's everyone's hell
right.
is
That's
their own.
right.
You know what I'm saying?
That's right.
My mom
That's
taught me
right.
that at a very early age to never judge what somebody's was going through because everybody's hell is all they know, whatever level that might be. And so I've always tried to remember that because it's like I know what I went through, and it's like, but then I remember like, oh, well, you wouldn't, not you, but someone else, like, oh, you wouldn't know what that was like because luckily for you, you didn't have to go through that. So yeah, I do need to be mindful of the fact that this is the highest level of trauma that you've had. But there's times even where I feel bad because there was a time when my oldest son, who was about to be 22 in October, when I yelled because I was tired working two jobs. And there will be days where I'll be like, man, I hope when he gets older. And I'm thinking, girl, he was like 2 years old. He don't even remember that. He don't even remember me taking him to Disneyland, let alone remember me yelling. But when I think about, breaking the cycle or whatever, it's like, oh, did I, you know what I'm saying? I hope I didn't implant anything or do anything that was going to cause later trauma. You know what I'm saying? Um,
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely.
and then I think too that it's important that we also understand that sometimes damaged people just try to damage other people. Hurt people hurt people.
Yeah. Yeah. Hurt
Sometimes
people.
there
Hurt
is
people.
literally no excuse or answer for it. Sometimes hurt people just hurt people.
So I'm gonna say this, and I'll try to give like 3 points as to how to navigate it. I won't say how to get past it, but how to navigate that, because that's real. That you have a parent that's deceased, and now all this family stuff come out, and it's hurting, and you're grieving that they're gone, and you're now grieving because you just found out a whole bunch of stuff, and now it's like, I love you, I'm grieving you, but I'm mad at you too, because I just found out that you were the source of some of the other things. And then, so you have that, and then you have, well, those people that are like, but I was fine until they passed away, and now I'll have the anger, and just what is that about? You know what I'm saying? So I'm
Yeah.
gonna say this: all of that is real. You're not crazy. You're not broken. You are a
Right.
human being who has a memory, and grief is weird. Grief is weird, but it's healthy. And so
So
what you have to do is say, you know what, I'm allowed to feel whatever I want to feel. I'm allowed
absolutely.
to not be sure about right now. I'm allowed to be sad that my parent is gone or whatever family member is gone. I'm allowed to be angry that they're gone, right? I'm allowed to not want to talk about them or hear their name spoken
Mhm.
right now that they've gone. I'm allowed, and I'm gonna tell you to follow
Absolutely.
that so that you can get that out of your system. Because I'm gonna tell you from
Yes.
experience that will pass, but you have to
Yeah.
feel it first.
You have to
Don't let
go through
anybody
with that.
tell you that you're crazy for feeling that. You don't have to feel the same way about your parents that your neighbor felt about theirs. It
That's
don't
right.
work like
That's
that.
right.
It don't work like
Right.
that. If you
Right.
don't, some people, I'm
Formula.
not going
There's
to
no formula that says you have to feel this way about this or that way about you feel how you. Some
yeah,
people
don't.
get questioned themselves because they don't cry, and it's like that's just your body's particular way of handling grief right now. There's going to come a time where you're going to cry, and when it happens, I mean, there were times, and I'm sure you went through this too, where I'd be on the way to work and I'd have to pull over. I'd have to just pull
It,
over.
it, uh,
I wouldn't have a choice. I'd have to pull over. I couldn't listen to a
I mean,
certain
there was yeah, there was a certain store that I would buy my mom's clothes from, and it was close to my house, so I would have to drive past the store to go anywhere. And within the first month or 2 months of her passing, every time I went by that store, I would scream. I would just scream because you know what I mean. Like I can't go in there and buy her clothes anymore. You know what I'm saying? Now, but
Yep.
guess what? I was okay with screaming because I knew eventually I was going to be able to drive by that store and be okay. You know what I'm
Yes.
saying? I don't think,
Yes.
and then eventually I decided to pull over and go in that store because I said I have
Okay.
to get this out of my system. So I
Okay.
pulled over, went into the store, and walked around the store and even looked at some things and said, if she was still here, I would have bought this for her. She would look
Yeah.
nice in this and she
Yeah.
would look nice in that. You know what I'm saying? I did that to because I'm like, one thing I don't want to do, and you don't have to do, I don't want to be held hostage by grief. I want to feel grief, experience grief, but I don't ever want to be held hostage by grief. And people think that because grief is heavy, because it is, that you have to be held hostage by it and
Right.
you got to go on grief's whim. You
Right.
don't. What you have to do with grief is you have to give grief its space.
Right.
Give yourself time to sit and cry. Give yourself time to be angry. And that when you start to feel that in at some inappropriate time, you say, "Oh, I already did this. I was
Right.
already sat in anger. I already sat and cried. No, I'm going to cry again,
Yeah.
but I'm going to cry when I get back home." You have to be that. And that sounds weird, but what's really
No,
weird is you
man.
just being in the middle of nowhere being crazy. All I'm gonna say is that
Mhm.
grief don't have to take you completely out of your element. You can sit with
Right.
grief, but don't let grief control you. Meaning you don't
Absolutely.
have to go to full depression come Mother's Day or come Father's Day.
Absolutely.
Or you don't
Some
have
people
to
have a hard time because they have to pack their loved one stuff, and it's like, I had a relative who lost their spouse, and they were having a hard time packing their spouse's stuff up, and I told her, you don't have to pack everything up at once.
no, absolutely
Put
not.
one, put one thing in a box a day. Start out doing that, or do set
so
yourself a
as far
small
as
goal
that
that you know you can do.
packing is concerned, so I did the thing as far as I went into the store to get that off of me. But my mom has been January 27th made a year that my mom has passed. And I still have clothes in the bag that I took put them in when I took them out of the nursing home the night that she passed. I haven't went back in that bag yet. But I've been able to do other things. When the holiday comes around, I was really feeling like, oh, so I cooked. I started baking because baking was her thing. I said, I'm going to feel it. I'm going to grieve it, but I'm going to do it in a way that does not cause me to lose time. So I knew she loved to bake during the holidays. So Thanksgiving and Christmas, I had my oven on 100. You know what I'm saying? I had my oven on 100, just baking away, just baking away, just baking away. And that's how you tell grief, this is how far you're allowed to go with me. I miss my mom. I wish she was here for the holidays. Holidays are can be brutal for some people. I understand and I respect it. But guess what? We're not gonna go into a flat out depression, because if you remember your mom or remember your parent or remember your loved one, they would not want to see you balled up in a fetal position. And I think the best way to honor somebody like that is for them to know that you are on your feet. And so I've had some hard decisions I've had to make, and I've had to say to myself, I want my mama to be proud. And if I just check out and just close a blind eye and not my business, she is not going to be proud. That's not who she raised me to be. So, in honor of her, I'm going to get my head up out of this bed and I'm about to go forge forward and figure it out. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Because that's what
Well,
she
and
did
you
with
gotta, you
me.
have a younger daughter as well. I think when you have younger kids and you still have to be present for them as well, I think that does make a difference because with my kids being older, I don't do holidays like we did when my mom was alive. I just don't. And I don't feel like, just like, like you said, everyone's allowed to grieve how they grieve. Like, I haven't been in my parents' house and I'm not going to go over there. I'm cool. And, you know, I know that everyone, people are sometimes like, oh, well, you can't get over this or that. Nah, I feel like certain times we know, just like you said, you know what your cap is, or you know where you're comfortable at that point. Maybe not for forever, but for right now. And that's I'm good. I don't need to go over there. I have the memories that I want to have. And if I want to see my parents, I just talk to them. You know what I'm saying? Um, And two, you also just touched on something too, that, closure is not always something that another person is giving us. It's
That's right.
definitely understanding that the full stories may never come, which for someone like me, closure is important to me. Without closure, I will lose my damn mind. However, I did have to learn that I couldn't get closure and I just had to choose peace. And instead of me, you know, moving forward, not right away, obviously, but at some point, instead of me just being able to fully move forward with the mentality of, oh, I'm just going to disassociate and, perfectly go away or whatever, I definitely had to take the time, like you said, to grieve and to figure out where I was willing to go on my own thing. I had to realize that forgiveness didn't mean that things weren't going to hurt. That just because I was forgiving
That's
someone,
right. That's right.
yeah, it doesn't mean that, like I said, we're not excusing it. We're not saying that it's okay. And we're not even doing it for their benefit. I'm not doing it for this wonderful memory of this person. I'm doing it so that I can move forward every day and be able to have good memories, because that's what I
That's right.
want to have. I don't want to have bad memories. I want good memories. So anytime I have a negative
Right.
memory or a bad thought, I immediately try to replace it with a better one. And I do it over and over and over again until hopefully one day it just replaces it. Certain things it has. Um, and I think
Amber, I
also,
love you. You're too sweet.
um, the I think a lot of things too is that a lot of times we get angry or frustrated during this time and we don't even know why. Like, let's pretend
That's
like
right.
there is no stuff. You know what I'm saying? There's not stuff you're finding out because when my dad passed, there was no family drama like that. Um, but you still get angry, and it's like, well, where is it coming from? And you forget that I'm tired. Anger can come from exhaustion. It can come from, again, feeling betrayed. It can simply come from watching someone that you love disappear mentally. When people are,
Hmm.
regardless of a lot of illnesses, different kinds of illnesses, that is usually one of the things that you're going to have to cope with is the memory loss and watching them fade, and that's just not something easy to do. I feel like we
No,
become angry as well because we lose our own identity. Someone's got to take the responsibility of caregiver. Someone has to take the responsibility of who makes the arrangements. It can be a lot. You know what I mean? So I think that if you're losing your own identity because you're trying to make everybody happy and you're trying to deal with all this stuff, and then there was a lot of things that I definitely learned, again, which was crying. If And I do it now. If my body tells me to cry, I cry. It's just what I have to do. um, Something else that I've taught myself about is understanding when I'm becoming emotionally numb. That happens. I don't think people understand what that means and what happens and how you can become emotionally numb to things. And there are ways that you can tell if you are, because if you're becoming numb, you have to figure it out, because if not, you're going to lose yourself for a while until something happens and you wake up or someone brings it to your attention. And when you've got kids, like we all do, none of us are jobs. We just don't have time to numb out.
and I think too the other, in addition to that, that's true. We kind of don't have time to numb out, but I think we can sit with grief and have a healthy enough relationship with grief to where we can say, you know what, I'm gonna feel what I feel, but I don't have to sit with none of it permanently. Like this doesn't have to be a lifestyle for me. It may be a season where I'm
Absolutely.
grieving because I just experienced this loss all of a sudden, and now I have to recalibrate my life because my support system is no longer here, or the people that I
Right.
love dearly is no longer
Yeah.
here. So it's going to take me a minute to to figure this out. You know what I'm saying? Um,
Yes.
but I'm going to figure it out. Like I'm going to, because I was left here, I'm going to stay here.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Because I was
Absolutely.
left here, I'm gonna stay here, and that means that now that they're gone, and for me, I had to go back and say, what did that woman teach you? What did that woman teach you about growing and thriving and surviving? What did
Right.
she teach you? It didn't go in the ground with her. She
Right.
made a
Right.
deposit in you. And so now is the time that you need to operate on that. You need to
Right.
pull that
Absolutely.
out. You know what I'm saying? And so
Yep.
all I'm gonna say about all of it is, I guess my point from all of this is that, grief is weird. Feel whatever you feel,
Hmm.
whether it's tears, whether it's anger, whether it's you're numb, whether you are indecisive, whether you don't have the energy to deal, whether you don't have the desire to be around people. Like I lean into all of those feelings, okay? And then after you've leaned into them for a while, say, okay, well, I'm still living. So it's time for me to go and navigate a new normal of living without alcohol.
Right.
And every
Absolutely.
day you have to do something that says I'm alive. Every day you have to do something that says I'm still here. Every day you have to do something that says I still have a contribution to make in this earth because I'm still
Right.
here. You know what I'm
Right.
saying?
Absolutely.
Like we're
That's
not going to do not going to be shells of ourselves. And that's a decision that you make every day, and that's a thing that you do day by day. You don't just jump out of bed and just start flying for the rest of your life. You have to
right.
make a conscious seizure
absolutely.
every single day. That, when it first happened, I cried for weeks at a time. Now I only cry 10 minutes a day.
Right.
Phenomenal. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely. Right,
Phenomenal.
right, right. Like you said, there's no formula or outline or time lapse or expiration date of when this isn't gonna hurt, when it's not gonna suck, when it's not, when we're not gonna have our days. Um, and like Nichelle just said, there will be times where I'm asleep and I will have the worst dream ever that I got into this huge fight with my mom. And I hate when I have dreams like that because me and my mom never fought like the dreams that I'll have. And I'll try to go back to sleep and I will. I'll pray like, Lord, please don't. I don't want to have any kind of negative memories, especially fake ones that are in a dream. And I definitely take, my grief there because number one, I know that both of my parents were saved. I know that they were both born again Christians. I know that they both believed in God, and I know they both believed when they were going. So I truly believe, and I don't really want to hear it if anyone else doesn't believe it, but I believe that my parents, are where they're supposed to be, and that's one of the things that helped me get through my grief as far as my dad, because it was like, okay, well, at least he's there with my mom now. Versus when it was just my mom, it was like, you know what I mean? I think that also goes to the understanding that the two truths can exist. We don't have to choose one truth. I don't have to say that my mom had to be this or that. I can say that she did both. I can say that my mom loved me as a mother, but also might have caused a little bit of damage, even if she didn't mean to. You know what I'm saying? Or, we can say that I can grieve them and still be angry. It's again, it's the, we can forgive, but we can still protect ourselves. Um,
You know, um,
and then I think
Nichelle,
too that
Nichelle, Nichelle Pack said in
yeah,
the chat on your page. She said, we also have to
yeah,
learn how to
no,
give grief to God as well. Jesus said, "Blessed are those who mourn, for they will be comforted." Good point. Because I've had to
that's what I
say,
was just responding to.
huh?
That's who I was just responding to. That's what I
Yeah.
said.
Okay. And that was a very good point because there are times where I have to say, like, you know what, God, I don't want to be sad today. God, I don't
Right,
feel like crying today. And sometimes we think because it's logical that it has to happen. Well,
right.
you just lost your parent, so it's okay to sit and cry. But I'm gonna be honest with you. If you don't feel like crying, tell God, I
Don't.
don't want to cry today.
Yep.
And I promise you, God will help you, and you won't spend the day weeping. And so that's what I mean when I said, sometimes you can tell grief how far to go. Like, hey, this is
Right.
as far as I'm
Absolutely.
going with you today. All right, I've
Yes.
already did all the things. Enough is enough. You know what I'm saying?
Yes. I
Um,
agree. Yes.
Now, Amber,
Because
answer
I've
this question
definitely had
for
to do
me.
that.
Amber, you said,
Especially because you go to work and you've got, after you've got the time where someone passes away, you go to work and everyone's like, oh, I'm so sorry to hear about this. And you have to suck it up and put it down and you have to just get on with your day. And that's not an easy thing to do, but you kind of just learn to do it. And um, I think too that a lot of people sometimes are healing and they may not realize that they're healing. Kind of like, they might think that they're still in a grieving process, but they don't realize that healing is allowing yourself to cry versus choking it
right.
back.
Amber,
Healing.
what do you mean when you said the one thing you can't get over? What do you mean when you say you can't get over that? Uh, Keep talking. She'll respond, Shauna.
Oh, choosing peace over the answers, as far as like, again, I feel like if you start to accept that, okay, it just is just going to be the way that it is, that's starting a healing process. And
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
we're allowed to grieve without guilt. Just
Yep,
like
that's
Joni
right.
was saying, we're allowed to step away. We're allowed to disconnect. We're allowed to not go visit all the time. And some people may not understand that. Some people might have been like, well, I was there all the time. Okay, well, I'm happy for you. It's different for everybody. And we all have to do what our minds, our hearts, and our brain, like that God allows us to deal with at the time. And
And
so
what's your resources in your capacity at the time? You may not have it to do. Like you may not have that availability. You may not have the space in your
that's
home
right.
to have them come to your home to go into a facility or of some sort. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
There's no blanket thing here. Like,
No,
okay, so she's able to keep her mom at home, but you work two jobs. There's no way you could have kept your mom at home.
right.
You know what I
Right.
mean? So, Shauna, I agree with what you're saying 100%.
Amber responded to you, honey.
Okay. Um, Actually, Amber, believe I, because of how things are orchestrated, when we got what we need to get, it's time to move on. And had it not been that situation with your brother, like you would have, if you would have needed that, you it would have been orchestrated for you to stay. You did. It's okay. Yes, that's a bad feeling. It's okay. Um,
I was laughing at the show. That's funny.
all right, y'all. If y'all have, this was a good conversation. If y'all have more questions, please send them, and then we can address them. This was really, really good.
Yeah, and
Thank you for
I
participating.
posted all the slides on the YouTube page, on the Facebook page, and on my Facebook page, just in case you guys wanted to go back and look at them. And then to address, Joni, what you just said, um, you already know, and I'll be the first one to say, I don't give a damn what anybody wants to say to me or what they would have done or make, because at the end of the day, was you there taking care of my family member with me? Was you there doing this? I mean, my answer was no, because I didn't. But it's, some people are willing to step up and do certain things, some people can't, and some people just, it is what it is. And you're right. Don't let people
Yeah.
make you feel guilty. You grieve, or you separate, or you do whatever, however you want to label it. You do what you have to do the way that you have to do it. Period. As long as you're doing it in a healthy way where you are at peace with your decision. If you're struggling with your decision, then, talk to your friends or talk to someone, just to get it out, bounce off other people. But, you know, if you've already decided how you feel and you've made that decision, don't let people make you feel no kind of way about what you decided to do.
Or don't let people make you feel some kind of way about a decision that they was never going to help you make to begin with.
That's right.
They weren't going to help you in either direction. You know what I mean?
Right.
So their opinion will never matter. And for somebody to have an opinion about how a person should take care of their loved one is just
It is
bonkers to
insanity.
me. It is just that's just bonkers. Like, are you serious? Um, yeah,
I
it's who
wanted to,
cares? But
so
um,
I can't, I wanted to post a picture in the chat, but it won't let me. So we are going to, I made some iron ons for the podcast that I'd like to give away. So there's 3 people viewing on Facebook, and there's somebody viewing on YouTube. I don't know who's viewing on YouTube. But if you're well, I know it's Nichelle, Amber, and Joni, but I'll send you guys the iron-on. There's 2 of them, and you can tell me which one you like, and I'll bring them to you. But I was really excited to be able to cover something that somebody wanted to talk about. We work really hard on these, and we want to make sure that we cover as much stuff as you can cover in an hour. You know what I mean? But I appreciate everybody coming, and the views and the conversations and stuff. And then again, if you enjoy the show, if you wouldn't mind going to our YouTube channel and subscribing and or liking because I take these and I post them on our YouTube channel. So if you would like them, we would appreciate it. If we can get some revenue, we can get some nicer mics and stuff. We could stop freezing. Or I could put extra little slides up with pictures while we're chatting. This is all kinds of cool stuff we could do. But yeah, so again, if anybody has anything else you guys want to talk about, let us know. Amber, I'm glad that you like coming. It's been dope because you've been here every week. So in the show, you're here too. So I'm glad that and if you guys ever need to talk or whatever, everybody in this room already knows what it is. I can talk my ass off. So, but all right, ladies, I'm gonna go ahead and. Did you have anything else, Miss Crystal?
No, I appreciate everybody that came in and chit-chatted and shared. This was not a walk in the park subject, but thank you guys for sharing and listening. And, I hope that you guys continue to get the comfort that you're looking for that you may not have. It's not easy, but you can have it. Just remember, I don't scream at the store no more.
All right, everyone.
Yeah,
have a good night.
You should.
Nichelle.
Good night, y'all.
We hope you enjoyed the show. Please hit the like and subscribe button. Stay blessed.